Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Williams, lead strategist of parent and family marketing here at JPL, and I will be your host for today's webinar, The Trust Shortcut. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. We are super excited to dig into a topic that's packed with opportunity for family-focused brands. If you're looking to better connect with parents and try your hand at influencer marketing, you're in the right place. If you're new to JPL, here's a quick look at who we are. JPL is a family-focused marketing agency helping brands connect with parents in real, meaningful ways that drive action. We specialize in delivering digital experiences and authentic storytelling that help you grow. Our team has spent decades helping organizations transform from simply selling solutions to becoming trusted family allies. Before we jump in, let me introduce myself. As I mentioned, I'm Lindsay Williams. I've been working in the field for over 20 years, focused on things like audience research, strategy formation, and performance measurement. I've worked across a variety of different industries and brands, including Johnson & Johnson, Comcast Xfinity, the Hershey Company, Campbell Soup Company, Sylvan Learning, the Commonwealth Charter Academy, and the PA State System of Higher Education. And my co-host today is Meg Connolly. She's an account strategist here at JPL. Meg is a champion of research-informed decision-making and works across JPL's full range of strategic clients. Meg built JPL's influencer marketing methodology and led the campaign that we'll feature in today's case study. Her other experience includes Penn Foster Group, the Hershey Company, Actilent, Aston Carter, Point Breeze Credit Union, and Soccer Shots, who we'll be talking about later today. Before we jump in, just a few quick housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded, so you'll receive a link and the key takeaways afterward. Also, feel free to drop questions in the Q&A at any time. We have reserved about 15 minutes at the end of the session, and we will get through as many questions as we can at that time. And the chat is open, so feel free to share your thoughts and connect with others throughout the session. All right, let's get started. Today is really all about showing you how family brands can win with influencer voices and how you can too. By the end of the session, you'll see that influencer marketing isn't out of reach. It's doable, practical, and powerful, and it will help you establish a shortcut to trust. Before we get started, we'd love to hear more about your current experience with influencer marketing. So where would you say you are in your influencer journey? You'll see a poll pop up on the screen. We'd love to know, are you new but looking for opportunities to jump in? Do you have one campaign under your belt? Have you done a few campaigns, or do you consider yourself a pro? And we'll give everybody a second to go ahead and pop their answers into the poll. All right, let's see. Okay, so a little bit of a mix. We don't have any pros in the house. That's okay. It looks like our biggest group are those who are new and just really looking to jump in. And then we have a few that are have a couple of campaigns under their belt. So good mix. All right, so today we're talking about a truth that every brand connecting with families needs to understand. Parents don't hand out trust easily. Parents are navigating a world overflowing with choices, and every decision feels weighty. It's never just about what you buy. It's about your child's safety, growth, well-being. What parents are seeking isn't another product pitch or more details to sort through. It's a sense of confidence, reassurance, trust. And that trust is built through isn't built through perfection or polish. It's earned through consistency, authenticity, and empathy over time. The bottom line is trust comes from people. The voices parents feel reflect their own lives, their own struggles, and their own values. And that's why influencers are no longer a nice to have. They're the modern version of word of mouth. When parents see creators they follow share a product, it's not an ad to them. It's a recommendation from someone they feel like they know. And that's the fastest path to trust, authenticity, and feeling truly seen. Now, influencer marketing isn't just about getting your brand in front of as many people as possible. It's about finding the right people through the right voices. Success happens when 4 key elements intersect: reach, relevance, resonance, and trust. So let's break that down. Reach is about visibility, the influencer's ability to get your message in front of the right audience, not just a large audience, but one that actually cares about what you're offering. Relevance is the alignment piece, making sure the influencer's content, tone, and community align with your brand's values and your target audience's mindset. Resonance is about engagement. And we're not just talking about likes or views, but how deeply the message inspires conversation, inspires sharing, or even action. That's where emotional connection starts to form. And finally, trust, the foundation that drives belief and long-term loyalty. When an influencer feels genuine, their audience believes them, and that credibility transfers directly to your brand. When these four come together, influencer marketing stops feeling transactional and starts building real connection, the kind that fuels loyalty and advocacy. Now, I want to set the stage clearly. This isn't your typical influencer marketing webinar. We're not here to talk about hashtags or engagement rates. This is about something much bigger: trust and discovery. We're going to explore how family brands can cut through the noise, earn credibility, and meet parents where they are through the voices they already turn to. To start us off, Meg is going to take us into the landscape shift that's redefining how parents discover and choose family brands.
Awesome. Thanks, Lindsay. So when we say discoverability lives in influencer content, we're not exaggerating, right? Influencers, they're not just shaping conversations anymore. They're shaping what parents actually find when they search. And influencer content has really become part of this search ecosystem, influencing what shows up, what feels credible, and ultimately what parents act on. And if you're a family brand, this shift matters more than you might realize because it really changes how parents discover you. Now, more than ever, parents are extremely overwhelmed by choices, right? Lindsay shared this earlier, but they're seeing ads, opinions, reviews. There's really endless recommendations in the social sphere. So all that noise really isn't building more trust. What it is, it's made trust harder to earn. So while we know that parent consumers respond to branded ads, research tells us that parents trust other parent voices 3 times more. Now, this doesn't mean that branded ads don't serve an important purpose in the media mix, in the marketing mix, because they do. What this means is that, a single reel, for example, from another trusted parent, might share, sharing their genuine experience might hold just a little bit more weight than a polished campaign. And that's because it feels real, it feels familiar, and above all else, it feels safe. And that tends to have some stopping power with parents. Now, for family brands, this balance between reassurance and decision making is truly everything, right? Parents want to make the right choice for their kids and for their families, and an authentic peer voice helps them to feel confident doing so. So we're finding that parents rely on these voices to cut through that noise and make sense of overwhelming information. Influencers cut through that trust gap, which is why the next layer is so important: how parents filter risk within every interaction. So when parents are online, they're not just scrolling, right? They're not passive scrollers, they're filtering through every post, every ad, every video gets measured against one simple but very important question: can I trust this? So, when we find and work with influencers, we see that these influencer voices help to lower anxiety and build confidence for that parent decision maker. In a recent study, when parents were asked what they needed most in order to make a decision, confidence rose to the top. And it makes sense, right? Think of your own feed. You're hit with content all day long. I know I certainly am. But the content and the creators you trust help to cut through that noise. They filter out uncertainty and make those choices feel easier. I like to think of them as a palate cleanser for the feed. But it's also like the digital version of asking another parent at the playground which preschool they chose. You probably don't want that brochure glossy answer. You want the real story. And that's exactly the role that influencers play online. Now, because of this trust gap, parents are also searching differently. They're looking for content that feels human and relatable, not necessarily buttoned up or overly corporate. Social content is now starting to shape what they find. And we're seeing how AI is changing how information surfaces. Influencer marketing has now become that connective tissue between relevance, reach, and return on investment. So let's look at a few examples of what this looks like. So Google is now surfacing influencer and Instagram business posts right in search results. So if a parent's searching for trending online schools for toddlers, they might see an influencer's reel or a YouTube video before a brand website. This shift means that influencer content isn't just on social anymore. It's discoverable in the same spaces that parents use to make decisions and search. This gives influencers a longer shelf life and broader impact beyond the social scroll. And for family brands, that's a signal that influencer partnerships can be optimized with captions and searchable keywords that truly align with your brand and what your audience is Googling. We're also seeing Google's short video tab now pull in Reels, TikToks, and YouTube Shorts. And this is perfect for busy parents who really want some quick, credible insight. The takeaway here, though, short form content is here to stay. And I'm sure we've all heard this and we've seen this, but short form is also becoming an SEO tool in its own right. This helps your brand meet audiences where their attention is shifting in a fast, visual, and highly authentic and relatable way. And finally, with some AI summaries, influencer content is often quoted or paraphrased directly in those answers. You can see here on the screen, we have an example of an influencer post in our featured campaign that appears in a Google AI mode search for soccer shots fall programs. So it's really great to see that the content does resurface, but it means that AI isn't just rewriting search results, right? It's curating them. And often it's using this influencer content to deliver these results and serve as proof points. And this changes how users interact with the results. Instead of clicking through multiple pages, they're relying on these truncated summaries to give them the information they're looking for. So for family brands, influencer marketing, this really isn't just a social play anymore. This doesn't just exist on Instagram or TikTok. This is visibility insurance for your brand in a changing search landscape. This is where authenticity and conversational content can really shape what AI has to say about your brand. So what does this mean for family brands, right? We just walked through a lot of information in the search landscape, but the key here is that influencer marketing is truly the new lever to pull, right? It's a way to reach parents exactly where they are online, cut through online noise and all this content that they're seeing on a daily basis. It's a way to adapt to new search behavior and also influence real decision making inside the home. When you think about your marketing mix, influencers are no longer a nice to have, and Lindsay said that earlier, but they're how you stay visible, relevant, and trusted in these key moments that matter. And the best part, this is completely within your reach.
And that's just the beginning. Influencer voices aren't just shaping discoverability, they're driving measurable results for family brands right now. To bring this to life, I want to dive into a real world example from one of our clients, Soccer Shots. Meg recently developed an influencer campaign for them that not only expanded their reach, but also built meaningful trust with parents in a way that their traditional campaigns simply couldn't. So let's take a look at what they did and why it works. But first, if you're not familiar with Soccer Shots, they are the nation's most trusted and engaging children's soccer program built on a foundation of character development. For more than 20 years, it's inspired over 500,000 children each year through top-notch coaching, clear communication, and a curriculum designed to teach both skills and values. With programs in more than 300 communities across North America, Soccer Shots helps kids 18 months to 8 years grow through teamwork, respect, and confidence, and making every session about more than just a game. And Soccer Shots came to us at a really exciting moment for them. It was their 20th anniversary. They were planning a celebration, a national free fun day in celebration of this milestone. and it was going to take place across North America. But with that milestone came a challenge. They weren't really sure if influencer marketing could actually increase awareness and increase event registration at scale. So Meg, you were the strategist here. How did you think about approaching the challenge?
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. So, I mean, this was certainly an exciting milestone for Soccer Shots. I mean, 20 years of making an impact on children's lives, certainly cause for celebration. But, with that celebration came the challenge that Soccer Shots had not, pursued influencer marketing before. This was completely new for them. And, they weren't sure where to start. They weren't sure how to prove that it could drive real business goals for them, especially across 300 franchise locations in North America. So for this campaign, the goal was really clear, right? We wanted to prove that influencer had a space in the franchise model and could deliver impact. We wanted to reach new parents online, exactly where they are, through this new channel, this new funnel, if you will, this new lever. We also wanted to minimize risk and scale quickly, all while making sure that the campaign felt super authentic and true to Soccer Shots' brand values and the mission of building character through play.
Yeah. So no easy challenge there. What was the plan? How did you make sure that this wasn't just going to be influencer noise, but it was actually going to resonate with parents?
Yeah, absolutely. So our strategy all started with research. Knowing that this was Soccer Shots' first influencer campaign and activation, we wanted to make the plan rock solid. Being able to ground the work in audience research really gave us the confidence from day one to shape every decision, from influencer sourcing and selection to creative direction and planning the actual campaign. Once it came time to plan the campaign, we recommended partnering with 20 influencers across 20 North American markets, a nod to their 20th birthday, with content rolling out in that campaign for 3 phases: before, during, and after National Free Fund Day. So the whole point was really to drive awareness, engagement, and registration for this event. And to balance that authenticity, with these influencers with reach, we wanted to build that multi-tier influencer mix. We know that there's value in partnering with that diverse mix of influencers who, come from all walks of life, have their own perspectives, and unique brand voice. But we knew that, nano influencers help to drive community engagement. Micro influencers drive cost efficient performance, and macro influencers, of course, have that reach. They're able to drive awareness at scale. So that was a strategic choice and recommendation we made. And then we also intentionally chose Instagram as our home base. We started with one platform, and this is where we know parents are scrolling, right? They are on their feed, they're looking at content, and this gave us the flexibility to use Instagram native content formats like Reels, carousels, static images, and stories. We know this performs well in the algorithm, and we also know that these influencers are using these content formats on the day-to-day basis, so allowing us to really lean into the influencer's voice to make it as authentic and interesting to their audiences. And we didn't end there. So because Soccer Shots is, this franchise organization, we developed a custom influencer marketing playbook, allowing their local owners to have this turnkey solution to replicate an influencer marketing approach in their own markets at that nano influencer level.
That's great. So even if they weren't in one of the priority markets, they still had an opportunity to jump in and get involved and have the guidance they need to do so.
Absolutely. We built this playbook with the end user in mind, right? That franchise owner. So gave them the best practices and the tools to really hit the ground running.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about activation. This was a lofty endeavor. How did you make all of this actually come to life?
Yeah, so the campaign officially launched this summer, June 1st. It kicked off 2 months of coordinated influencer activity leading up to that National Free Fund Day. But for a program of this scale, and knowing that we wanted to move quickly, consistency and organization was paramount in the lead up, right? That's where JPL, our team, really came in. Our team handled everything, all these little moving parts before the campaign activated and then during campaign. Once the campaign was live in market, managing influencer sourcing, communication, and contracting, reviewing influencer content with the Soccer Shots client, scheduling posts and making sure that content goes live according to plan, and then tracking performance in real time. And then another element of the campaign was ensuring that influencers could actually attend their local National Free Fun Day in their market. So a part of that support was also coordinating with influencers, making sure that they, had the location information and, they were able to attend. But we acted as the hub, right? So we were working in between keeping 21 influencers across 21 markets aligned and on schedule. Each influencer had a personalized content schedule tied to their local Soccer Shots program. So this allowed us to streamline approval process with the client, but also make sure that the partnership was as seamless and integrated as possible. And we also made sure that the content that we were scheduling throughout the campaign showed up consistently, on a weekly basis in parent feeds. That was important to us as, we had a lead up time leading up to National Free Fun Day, making sure that Soccer Shots is present in family feeds on Instagram was really important in driving that reach and engagement. But in the end, as you can see here, we generated nearly over 120 pieces of influencer content, and our influencers were able to participate in that National Free Fun Day, just demonstrating the joy and fun of Soccer Shots. But I think the best part when I think about the campaign and just activating it was to be able to demonstrate that the structure is feasible. We built this framework for Soccer Shots that they can repeat over time. We can scale it, we can scale back, we can expand, but we can, absolutely repeat this process over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's take a look at the campaign in action.
The day is finally here. It's National Free Fun Day
with Soccer Shots.
And we are heading out to go have some fun.
Yeah.
So this is your sign to check out Soccer Shots Free Fun Day the next time it rolls around. Because Kat had the best time yesterday, and since today is National Soccer Day, we're just reliving all the fun. Kat scored a goal and now insists she's ready for the World Cup. The coaches were amazing and the energy was so fun.
My boys loved wearing their orange jerseys when they did Soccer Shots in Pennsylvania, and Jude was so excited to have a pair of true soccer socks. When we got there, sign-in was so easy. They gave the boys some little free applesauces and some bracelets. But for me, the highlight of the event was twofold. First, the coaches were amazing and made it so fun for the kids. Second, they instill such good values that translate on and off the field, teaching about things like respect, perseverance, and believing in yourself, as well as, of course, teamwork. We love Soccer Shots, and I 10 out of 10 recommend trying it out with your kids.
Okay, we just got to Mackin Park. We're here with Soccer Shots. Charlotte is going to play soccer.
Yeah.
For the first time ever. Are you so excited?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she has never played soccer. There's different sessions you can sign up for, different ages. So whatever age your child, there's 18 months to 8 years. Are you so excited?
Okay.
How great is
So
that?
cute.
I mean, you can see the authenticity of the influencer and their little ones. I think, you can just see how that makes a real connection with parents. But here is where it gets even more exciting. This campaign generated over 850,000 organic impressions and over 16,000 engagements. And even more importantly, 30% of the parents who visited the campaign microsite clicked through to register with their local Soccer Shots franchise. These are incredible results. Meg, what stands out to you most about the results of the campaign?
Yeah, Lindsay, I have to say those results speak for themselves, but three results bubble to the surface for me. One of my favorite outcomes from the campaign was seeing Soccer Shots' Instagram following grow by nearly 2,000 new followers in that campaign period. This wasn't something we set out to achieve, but it's a clear sign that influencers help to expand their community. We also saw that across all of the different native Instagram content formats we used, carousels, really stood out. They achieved a 3.48% engagement rate, which beats our 1 to 3% Instagram, engagement rate benchmark we set for the campaign. Not super surprising to see because carousels tend to drive that engagement just with that interactive element to it, but really great to see nonetheless. And then, when it comes to our influencer partners, I really couldn't be more pleased. Not only were they and their talent managers a pleasure to work with, but they really understood the assignment and they showed up. And in the end, we found that micro influencers were really the MVP. They delivered a 4 to 9 times stronger cost per engagement, which is fantastic. And then our nano influencers also drove some of the highest engagement rates we've seen, nearly 10% over our benchmark. Again, speaking to that trust that micro and those nano influencers establish with their active following. And then, we also saw our macro influencers, because of their reach and the size of their following, they really help to put Soccer Shots on the map, for these parent audiences.
Wow. Yeah. For a campaign that ran just 2 months and entirely organically, this is incredible performance.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really pleased with these outcomes, and the ripple effect will continue, which is really great to see. The content still lives on feeds, it's still available on Instagram, and it still gets surfaced in the algorithm, meaning that parents will still see this content. So the Soccer Shots brand story will continue to live, meaning that brand lift will be felt over time.
Yeah, that's great. So I think Soccer Shots proves it. Influencer marketing can be done at scale, can be on budget, and deliver measurable results. But maybe you're still thinking that, sure, this worked for them, but it's not maybe right for your brand. So I want to dive into that. Let's take a quick poll. What would you say is your biggest barrier when it comes to influencer marketing? Is it finding the right influencers, measuring impact and ROI, managing influencer relationships and communication, ensuring compliance and brand safety, or is it fitting influencer into your budget? So take a minute and let's see what everyone has to say. All right. All right. Really an even spread here. Fitting influencer into the budget is a big one, followed up by finding the right influencers, measuring impact and ROI, and ensuring compliance and brand safety. So let's dive into this. This is exactly what we want to tackle next. We often hear some of the similar things that you just shared with us. So we want to look at these common, what I call myths, and kind of tackle them one by one. So let's start with the one that is most prevalent here. Meg, it's too expensive, doesn't fit into our budget. What do you think about that?
Right. Common question. And in fact, I think I saw a few budget related questions in the comments here. But the truth is, influencer budgets come in all shapes and sizes, and it really depends on a few variables, right? Campaign scale, maybe the number of influencers you're looking to partner with, content types on various, platforms, and also formats. But I think for family brands, the key takeaway here when it comes to budget is you don't need big name influencers, right? We don't need big price tags to make an impact or to have an impact and get in front of and connect with parent audiences and family audiences. So the right trusted voice is who we should be connecting with for parents. So when it comes to budget or it feels too expensive, I would challenge that notion. There's ways to work around that.
Yeah, I think Soccer Shots is a great example of that. We just shared that the nano and micro influencers had huge impact. And you were able to also really identify markets with the most opportunity instead of trying to, blanket the entire footprint for the brand. So I think that's a great case study there. What about it's too complex? So, there's a lot to manage. That's something we hear.
Yeah, 100%. And I do want to validate that point. It can be complex, right? There are a lot of moving parts between contracting, approvals, scheduling. But the thing is that I find, marketing teams already handle this stuff in-house, with other marketing programs or other integrated campaigns. An influencer can just be an extension of those same skills with a little bit more collaboration. When we worked with Soccer Shots on this campaign, we were really able and fortunate enough to be in the position to shepherd them, through this process, to give them insight into the full marketing planning process for influencer marketing. So something I like to focus on is just providing clarity through complexity. There's certainly going to be complex moments, but it doesn't have to feel overwhelming. And, with the right plan and the right strategy, it can feel seamless.
Yeah, it's all about organization and pulling the right partners in at the right time.
Absolutely.
How about it's not for our brand? So a lot of people feel like influencer marketing may not be a right fit for them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a common question or a common challenge I hear too. And I want to challenge that as well, right? Influencer marketing isn't all about flash or hype, although I'm sure we've all seen campaigns where they certainly lean into that. But what family brands are built on is trust and relatability and authenticity. And that's really where influencer marketing sits in. That's when you strip it all back, that's really what influencer is about. And there are fundamentals of influencer marketing, right? There's best practices and there are, standards, but there also isn't a blueprint, which means there's so many types of influencer activations that could be right for your brand. So as long as you stay true to your brand values and your goals, I'd say influencer marketing can really help to elevate and expand your positioning to reach new audiences in new ways. So I wouldn't think of it as a not right fit. It could just be the exact fit. We have to just find what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about if they are open to influencer marketing as a whole, but maybe they don't feel like there is a specific influencer who is a right fit for them? What do you think about
Totally.
that?
So strategist answer, I'd say it kind of all goes back to the strategy, right? It kind of goes back to who your audience is. What are their pain points? What are their values? As long as you know who you're targeting, the likelihood of finding an influencer who also has an audience of that same makeup, the same values, pain points, needs, there's certainly an influencer out there for you, whether that's a parent like who we partnered with for Soccer Shots. Maybe they're an educator or a teacher in a K through 12 setting. Maybe they're a community leader, or even local micro creators who have a niche topic that they're focused on. There's certainly an individual out there with a voice and a brand who is the right fit for you.
It's all about doing your homework, right? Digging in and
Totally.
searching for the right one. So I think the key point here really is these are myths. They are not barriers. I think with an integrated approach where influencer can enhance a holistic strategy, when that strategy informs the campaign and the approach that you take, and with a partner that can help you execute, it's all within reach. So Meg, what advice would you give to a brand who is really excited, wants to get started, wants to dive into influencer marketing, but doesn't necessarily know where to start? I know we have several of those here today with us. What would you suggest?
Yeah. Well, first, if you're starting at a walking pace or dipping your toes into influencer, I'd recommend first start small, right? Begin with one influencer tier, maybe one partnership, one market, or one platform that your audiences are on, a market that's performing well. This focus helps you learn faster and prove what works before scaling and expanding. We took a similar approach with Soccer Shots where we, focused on just one platform, and that was Instagram. That allowed us to scale in other ways, like the number of influencers we wanted to partner with or the number of markets. I'd say definitely start small. Next, I'd recommend don't try and boil the ocean, right? Don't take on more than you think you can handle right out of the gate. Be realistic but opportunistic. Don't lose sight of, that end goal and the opportunity that presents itself with influencer. There's certainly opportunity for family brands to activate, to attract that parent audience. But there is clarity to be had in those complex moments. Then I would recommend always be strategic. And again, I know coming from a strategist, that probably sounds like a no-brainer, but I really encourage family brands to ground every decision in whether it's audience research or market insights, market trends, so you know which voices your target audiences already trust and how they interact with influencers. Again, going back to Soccer Shots, this was absolutely key to our campaign, just making it absolutely rock solid and helping us feel confident in all of our planning. And then finally, I would recommend test, learn, and iterate, right? Always learn, always test, and then really try and find ways to evolve. And maybe that looks like setting aside a portion of next year's marketing budget to activate a small campaign, partner with one influencer, but treat it as a pilot, right? Measure performance, document your learnings, and then use that as a benchmark for the next activation to scale those efforts. So, I think it's really all about starting where you're at, right? Don't worry about what will happen in 6 months or what you should do 2 years from now. It's really all about starting small to set yourself up for success and maintain that momentum.
That's great advice. What about for those folks with us today who maybe they've already started, they have a campaign or a few under their belts, but they want to grow or enhance what they're doing as far as influencer goes?
Yeah, so I'd say the theme here for individuals who have a campaign under their belt or they're looking to advance, it's really about evolution, just evolving the practices that you already have in place. So first, I would always recommend always view influencers as your partner. They're not just content distributors or another content channel. The strongest programs that I see treat influencers as true partners, right? These are collaborators in the work with you. They're enthusiastic about the partnership. They bring fresh audience insights, creative ideas, and ultimately they know their platform best, right? They know what engages their audience, what drives them to action. So when you empower influencers to co-create alongside you instead of dictating the work, I find that content feels more authentic and often performs better. Then I would recommend to diversify your approach. So on the earlier slide, I said just start with one, but here, I would say that if you're focused on just one platform or one format or one type of influencer, it's time to expand. So try mixing in short form video with carousels or exploring other spaces where your parent audiences exist, like TikTok or YouTube Shorts. Dig deeper into your audience's values, their pain points, what they need, what changed this year compared to last year. What can an influencer speak to drive that brand loyalty and that growth? But the goal is to meet families where they already are, not just where your brand feels the most comfortable. And finally, if you haven't already, I do encourage you to integrate influencer content into your larger ecosystem. Influencer doesn't happen in a vacuum, and the content doesn't have to exclusively exist on organic socials. We're already seeing influencer content extend and have that shelf life in AI-driven search. So there's an opportunity here, if you haven't already, really to repurpose influencer assets and content into paid ads, email marketing, and blogs, really anywhere where your parent audience is, that would help to build trust and authenticity to boost results. So I know this was a lot of content, but when you're thinking about evolving influencer marketing, I think it's important just to think through what that next step looks like, right? You if you're already working on influencer and you have these campaigns under your belt, you probably have all the internal processes in place. The next step is just thinking about how to evolve, how to deepen your partnerships, widen your reach, and really make sure that that content that influencers are creating, works harder and lasts longer for your brand. So regardless of where you are in your influencer marketing journey, if you've ever believed in word of mouth, you already believe in influencer marketing.
That's right. And then now it just happens at scale on the platforms where parents live, where they scroll, and where they're making decisions for their families. So as we wrap, I want to bring it back to the core truth here. Family brands don't succeed because they're the loudest. They succeed because they're trusted. Influencers are today's shortcut to that trust. They help parents discover, feel confident, and take action. So don't overthink it. Start small. Integrate influencer voices into your broader campaigns and build trust where it matters most with parents. Now we would love to hear from you. What hesitations do you have about influencer marketing? What feels exciting or maybe overwhelming? I know we have some comments already or some questions already in the chat, but go ahead and drop any questions you might have there. We're going to tackle as many as we can. And while I pull that up, we also checked in with a few of our clients who are joining us today, and we asked them what their questions, burning questions were related to influencers. So the first one we got from them was, what does your influencer sourcing look like for parent and family brands? Meg, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question. Influencer sourcing might be my favorite part of many favorite parts of the process for influencer campaigns, but it really starts with trust and authenticity, right? Kind of the theme of this conversation today. But when we're sourcing influencers, we're looking for individuals who share real moments, right? For parent and family brands, particularly real and authentic and honest family moments, right? We're not looking for overly polished content, staged content. And also we're looking at influencers whose values align with the brand. So that might look like looking at local or community-based parent influencers who have strong engagement, even if their followings are just a little smaller. But we also look at their current audience makeup to make sure that it is aligned with our, the family brand's target audience and past partnerships, just to make sure that everything feels genuine and brand safe and there isn't any conflict of interest.
That's great. All right. So another one we got, how can we tell if influencer content is actually driving business results and not just likes and comments?
Yeah. So I think that all goes back to planning at the upfront, right? So when we work on campaigns, we set up tracking from the start. That looks like giving influencers unique links that allow us to track performance to a campaign microsite, really just to understand how their content is performing, whether that's website traffic, registrations, awareness lifts. But I'd say the way to tell if an influencer content is actually driving business results is just to be able to track that over time, to see what that lift looks like from campaign start to end. Also, just to see what the comment sentiment looks like in influencer content, beyond traffic to sites. How are audiences showing up in the comment section? Are they engaging? What do the comments look like? Are they happy? Are they excited? So there's multiple ways to kind of track that, but all goes back to campaign goals, measuring and planning that at the upfront.
Yeah, that's great. All right, some questions from the chat. This is a great one. Have you ever linked a brand with an influencer who then does something or says something the brand is not comfortable with, maybe in their normal content, not necessarily the branded content? And what rights does the brand have if and when those things go wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say, I have not particularly experienced something myself where a campaign is live and something is posted, but I will say it all goes back to kind of risk management at the upfront, making sure that we're really clear on the type of influencers we're partnering with, the type of content they post, making sure that they're aligned with, the family brand's values, and making that clear in, influencer outreach, what we'd look for during the campaign. But ultimately, we can't control what influencers post. We don't control their platforms, but we can, give them the tools and the guidance as far as what we would look for during, campaign activation.
Yeah, and I think you said this, but like just the research and the homework before you actually create that partnership, really understand what their past content looks like, what kind of values they have and what they stand for, and making sure there's a fit there before you even pursue that relationship.
Absolutely.
So we have another question here, actually a few related to budget. There are some clients who are maybe asking to get influencers for free, are asking about a budget range expectation for, maybe something similar to what Soccer Shots did, something of that level. Like, is there a range that you can share with us?
Yeah, so I would say, unfortunately, there really isn't a range, because if you reach out to an influencer A and influencer B, they may have the same number of followers and the same type of content, but they may charge different rates for their content. So I would say key is to just be over communicate what you're looking for. Be very clear on campaign goals and objectives. When you're reaching out to influencers, be clear about your budget allocation, what you're able to spend. But when it comes to a true budget range, there really is no blueprint for that, in the industry, just within influencer marketing at large. So what we did for Soccer Shots was, when we were reaching out to influencers, I was very open. I was very transparent, and just looking to understand what the going rates were for X amount of content deliverables on Instagram. And in doing so, and reaching out to multiple influencers, I was able to get a sense of what the budget allocation would look like, to make sure that we weren't overextending ourselves, or not giving ourselves the best outcomes with the budget. So, I think there's nothing wrong with over communicating and being transparent, but being strategic about it, and looking for the answers that you're searching for.
Yeah. Can you dive into compensation a little bit more? So specifically, when you're looking at influencers for a campaign, how have you found that compensation varies based on maybe the size of the following, the type of the content, or the depth of the content maybe that they're posting? What have you found to be true of kind of that balance? And then any experience in understanding like monetary value, and whether you're paying, in cash or discounted free products and services?
Yeah. So I will say that across influencer tiers, what you may hear, nano influencers are maybe, a smaller chunk of change compared to macro. And I would say that's true. That is consistent across the board. The variables come into play with the type of content formats and the number of content formats and content pieces. So, for example, if you're looking for a story, Instagram story where it's 3 slides, 3 frames, you may be able to bundle that, in one fell swoop. For a reel, that might look like one flat rate for a reel. And maybe, that can be reposted multiple times or reposted to stories. So I think that as long as you know the type of content you're looking for, and you're looking for influencers to produce, all that needs to happen is a conversation to understand what their rate is, and being willing to negotiate and say, are you willing to do X with X? So never had an issue with having that open conversation and negotiating. And more often than not, influencers are more than welcome to from my experience, more than welcome to work with you and collaborate. And then as far as paying influencers and what that structure could look like, I think payment is always appreciated for my experience. These are individuals with their own brands. They're creating content for multiple campaigns or partnerships. And I would say it's standard to pay your influencers, but certainly there's other instances or other activations where, maybe, you're sending or seeding gifts and providing or a free experience in exchange for them to share their experience in a social post. But again, all that comes down to is just communication, making sure that on the back end exactly what you're looking for and being prepared to reach out to that influencer and ask and see, hey, are you interested in attending this event? We'd love to have you there, in exchange for a reel on Instagram tagging us and kind of laying out the parameters.
Yeah. All right, we have a couple more. What are common mistakes that brands make when it comes to influencer compliance?
Yeah, I love that question. Compliance is such an important part of influencer marketing, but it's one that I think if you haven't had the experience, you may not know all the ins and outs, and it could feel complex, right? But it really has to be a part of the process from day one. So this could look like making sure influencers know FTC guidelines, that they're aware of exactly what that looks like, using proper disclosure language, staying within brand safety rules. I often see brands either not being forthcoming in their partnerships with influencers, having that hashtag ad nowhere visible in, the caption. Maybe on Instagram, for example, with Soccer Shots, we leveraged the paid partnership label on every post. So whether that was a story or an in-feed deliverable, we made sure that label was available. So, consumers know that this is compliant. But again, just being clear at the upfront about what you're looking for. If influencers aren't familiar with what you're asking for, just take the time to educate them and to protect your brand and also the partnership.
Yeah, and somewhat related to that, what about overall content guidelines? Can you talk about what you provided in the Soccer Shots program so that they knew what parameters to work within?
Yeah, absolutely. So once we signed an influencer, what we did was we provided them with a campaign brief that looked like some background information on Soccer Shots, exact deliverables that we scoped for with them. So, for example, if we partnered with an influencer and we had 3 reels that they were creating and 1 story set, we would walk them through, this is what we're looking for you to say in that reel. This is what we're looking for you to portray and kind of demonstrate, but we're really keeping it open for their interpretation. We gave them some, language guidelines as far as this is how Soccer Shots talks about themselves. They engage with children 18 months to 8 years old, making sure that that's incorporated throughout. But really wanted to make sure that influencers had the autonomy to create content that feels natural to them, that feels organic to their channel itself, with that Soccer Shots flair.
Yeah. All right. And finally, how long did it take from planning to launch in the Soccer Shots campaign? Can you talk a little bit about kind of what people can expect from timing overall for something like this?
Absolutely. So from planning to campaign activation, I believe we had 4 or 5 months. It may have been just 4 months. And that was influencer sourcing, outreach, contracting with influencers, getting them briefed on the campaign, scheduling content reviews, making sure that our client had eyes on what was to go live, preparing influencers with tracking links and making sure they were set up there. So quite a bit went on in the background when I was talking about that hub that JPL created. But yeah, so a lot of planning went in on the back end, but we were better for it.
That's great. Okay, these were great questions. Thank you all so much. Thanks for spending an hour with us. We hope that you leave with new energy around influencer marketing, that it is not just a buzzword, but it is a powerful trust building tool for your brand. If you'd like to talk more about how this could look for your team, we'd love to connect with you. You can see our LinkedIn contacts for Meg and myself on the screen here. And also you can connect with JPL as well on LinkedIn for ongoing content that can help push your brand forward. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.